The man they locked in chains became the voice that saved them all, not with bullets, but with truth. Alarms screamed across the ship, hull doors slammed shut, and deep in the cold dark of space, something ancient moved closer. Ethan ran through. The steel halls, the stolen wrist drive tight in his fist. Cale followed close behind, limping but unshaken. Every step was a race against time. Outside the window, a massive shadow drifted past. Not Draxer, not human. Something worse. They burst into the command deck. Officers turned. Weapons were drawn. "Hold your fire," yelled the technician who had helped them escape. "He has the message, the real message." Commander Brill stepped forward. "You're making a mistake, son." Ethan stared at him, chest rising and falling. "No," he said. "You did." He threw the wrist drive into the control slot. A blue light spread across the main screen. A voice played. "This is LT, Sarah Gray, Earth Fleet, USS Polaris. If you're hearing this, it means I failed to stop the war. But maybe someone else still can." The room went quiet. Even Brill. The screen changed. Ancient star maps, coordinates, images of alien ruins, older than Earth, older than the Draxer. Then a warning. A third race is watching, feeding off our war, waiting for us to destroy ourselves. Unless we unite, neither side will survive. Gasps filled the room. One of the officers whispered, "She was right." Ethan turned to Brill. "You knew, didn't you?" Brill's jaw tightened. War keeps people afraid, keeps them controlled. Before Brill could say more, the ship shook violently. Massive blasts struck from space. Enemy unknown. The lights flickered. The view screen showed the new ships, black and gold, with no markings, silent, deadly. They weren't here to take sides. They were here to finish what the war started. Ethan turned to the room. "You want to survive? Then stop fighting each other right now." He walked to the command panel and broadcasted one open message to both fleets. "This is Ethan Gray, human, soldier, survivor. We are under attack by a common enemy. And if we don't work together, there will be nothing left to fight for." Seconds later, a Draxer transmission answered. Cale stepped forward. His deep voice echoed in his own language. The human translator struggled to keep up. "This is Warrior, Cale of the Bloodshade. I will not fight the human who saved my life. I will fight beside him, against the ones who want us both gone." That was the moment everything changed. For the first time in decades, the fleets paused. Cannons went cold. Fighters held their position. Enemies became allies, not by order, but by choice. Ethan looked out at the stars. He wasn't a captain, not a leader, just a man who made a hard choice, and somehow, it had been enough. Later, when the last enemy ship burned out in the black, silence returned to the galaxy. But it wasn't empty. It was hopeful. Cale stood beside Ethan on the observation deck, looking at Earth in the distance. "You had a chance to go home," Cale said, his voice low. "Why stay?" Ethan smiled. "I did go home," he said, "just not the way I expected. Because in the end, home wasn't about flags or fleets. It was about who you'd bleed for, and who would bleed for you. One button, one flare, one way home." And he was about to give it away to the enemy who had become his only friend. The cold wind howled across the rocks. Ethan stood on a high ridge, clutching the emergency beacon in his hand. Small, silver, shaped like a coin. Once activated, it would send a signal to the nearest Earth fleet, guaranteed rescue. One time used up behind him, Cale lay against a rock, wounded again. His breathing was shallow, his armor was cracked. His eyes dimmed out below. The enemy drone circled the sky. The recon squad was close. Too close. Time was gone. Ethan stared at the beacon. His thumb hovered over the red button. One press. And he'd be saved. One press. And Kale would be dead. Because Earth didn't take prisoners. Especially not Draxer. He looked back at Kale. Just 2 days ago, this alien was supposed to be his enemy. A killer, a monster, but Kale had pulled him out of fire. Shared his air. Saved him twice, and now he was dying, quietly, with no anger. No blame. Just trust. The beacon felt heavier in Ethan's hand. He remembered training back on Earth. Never trust a Draxer. Never hesitate. War is war. But war had taken everything from him. His crew. His brother. His sister. Now, it wanted to take his humanity too. The sky flashed. Dropships were landing nearby. He had seconds left. Ethan looked up. Then, down at the beacon. He had to choose. He pressed the button. But not for himself. The beacon blinked once, then turned blue. He had reprogrammed it. The signal was no longer his ID. It was Kale's. Ethan dropped the beacon next to the alien's chest. "Come on, you ugly bastard," he whispered with a smile. "They'll find you. You'll live." Kale's eyes fluttered open. He looked at Ethan. Confused. Ethan gave a thumbs up. "You're going home." Kale grunted weakly. He understood. Then his eyes widened. Behind Ethan, shadows were moving. Too late. Human recon soldiers appeared on the ridge, guns raised. Dropped the weapon, hands in the air. Ethan turned, hands open. He's not a threat. But they didn't listen. One soldier raised his rifle. Kale tried to move, tried to shield Ethan. Ethan stepped in front of him. "Don't shoot, he's injured." "He's Draxer," the squad leader said. "That's all we need to know." Ethan pulled the data recorder from his suit, the one from the ruins. His sister's message. He held it high. "You shoot him, you lose this. And trust me, this changes everything." The soldiers hesitated. One of them lowered their weapon slightly. "Sir." "He's holding a command chip. Old Earth design. Looks legit," the leader cursed. "Fine, secure them both. But keep them separate." They dragged Ethan and Kale to different dropships. Kale gave one last look, a silent goodbye, not with anger, but with respect. Inside the ship, Ethan leaned back in his seat, exhausted. A medic checked his wounds. He didn't care. He had made his choice. He didn't know where they were taking him. He didn't know if they would listen to the message, but he knew one thing. He had done the right thing. In the sky above, 2 flares rose, 1 red, 1 blue. 2 lives, 2 paths, and maybe a new beginning. Asterisk. The stars looked peaceful, but inside the ship, they were sharpening knives. Ethan sat handcuffed in the back of the dropship as it soared into orbit. The Earth fleet glittered in the distance, clean, massive, powerful. Home. Or so he thought. Across from him, soldiers stared in silence. No smiles, no greetings. No questions. Just cold eyes. Like he wasn't one of them anymore. Like he had already become the enemy. He glanced at the small data drive still clipped to his suit. His sister's message. The alien ruins, the warning about a bigger threat. He wanted to shout, "I have proof. I'm not a traitor." But he knew better. They weren't here to listen. They were here to contain. The dropship docked with command vessel Argo, a giant steel beast floating above the planet. As the hatch opened, a tall officer stepped in. Commander Brill. Silver hair, black gloves, and eyes like ice. He didn't speak. Just stared at Ethan for a moment. Then nodded. "Bring him to interrogation room 3. Ethan was dragged through metal halls. Everything felt cold and too clean. Like he didn't belong anymore. In the hallway ahead, another squad marched past, escorting someone large, limping. Kale. The alien was alive, bound in thick cuffs, surrounded by 10 soldiers with rifles. Their eyes met for a second. Ethan gave a small nod. Kale said nothing, but his jaw tightened. His eyes spoke one word: trust. Inside the room, Ethan was shoved into a chair. A spotlight lit his face. Commander Brill entered and placed the data drive on the table. "You risked your life for this," he said flatly. "Better be worth it." Ethan leaned forward. "It is." That planet wasn't just a battlefield. It was a message from the past, from my sister. Brill raised an eyebrow. "Sarah Gray died years ago." "No," Ethan said. "She was there. I found her name in a chamber that's older than Earth's history. She tried to stop the war, and now, so am I." Brill stayed quiet. Then slowly he stood and crushed the data drive under his boot. Ethan's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "That's evidence." Brill looked down at him. "You gave aid to the enemy. You released a beacon with his signature. You put Draxer Tech in our airspace." Ethan stood, furious. "He saved my life, twice, and I saved his. There's a bigger threat out there. That ruin wasn't built by us or by them." Brill smirked. "You're not a hero, Lieutenant. You're a liability." He turned to the guards. "Put him in the brig." As Ethan was dragged away, alarms began to ring through the ship. Emergency alert. Unknown signal detected. Approaching fast. The lights dimmed red. A new fleet was entering the system. Not Earth. Not DRAXAR. Something else. Something. Worse. In. The brig. Ethan sat in the dark, hands still cuffed. He heard footsteps. The door slid open. It wasn't a soldier. It was Cale, bruised, bleeding, still cuffed. But standing behind him, a young technician, pale and shaking. "I saw the message," she whispered. "I copied it before Brill destroyed it. He's lying. They all are." She unlocked Ethan's cuffs, then handed him a wrist drive. "Prove it before it's too late." The floor shook. Outside, ships fired. Sirens wailed. Power flickered. Ethan looked at Cale, then at the tech. Then back at the stars outside the window. Now full of war, he clenched the drive in his fist. They tried to bury the truth, but he wasn't done fighting. Not for Earth, not for the DRAXAR. But for the truth. It was supposed to be a rescue, but now he was dragging his enemy through fire. With less than 1 minute of air left in his lungs, Ethan's breaths came sharp and fast. His chest burned. His vision was fading. Oxygen, 1%. The number blinked. Red on his cracked wrist screen. A quiet alarm beeped. Slower now, he glanced behind him. The alien Cale was badly injured. That last blast from the drone had burned deep into his side. He was strong, but even he had limits, and now, so did Ethan. The tunnel was collapsing. Smoke and dust filled the air. Their path was closing fast. Ethan didn't think. He just acted. He pulled Cale's heavy arm over his shoulders and stumbled forward. 1 foot at a time. In front of them, a faint blue light shimmered through the smoke. A doorway, another part of the cave. If they could reach it. Ethan's knees gave out. He fell. Cale landed beside him, both coughing, choking. Ethan clawed at his belt. He had one last option, an emergency oxygen injector. Short burst. 10 seconds. Enough to maybe breathe again. But there was only one. He looked at Cale, the enemy who had just saved his life. Twice. He didn't think. He pressed the injector to Cale's chest and triggered it. The alien gasped, eyes snapping open. Air filled his lungs. Ethan smiled weakly. "One of us has to make it." Then everything went black. Silence. Darkness. A moment later, cold liquid hit Ethan's face. He jerked awake, coughing. His mouth tasted like metal. He was alive. He looked up. Cale was leaning over him, holding a strange alien device. It had revived him, recycled air. Barely enough, but enough. Cale gave a sharp grunt. A question. Ethan gave a small nod. "I'm okay." They both sat in silence, catching their breath. The new cave chamber was different. The walls were smoother. Metal, not stone. Lights ran along the ground, glowing softly. This wasn't a natural cave. It was a structure, buried deep under the planet. Alien tech. Ancient, powerful. Kale stood slowly and walked forward. His fingers brushed symbols on the wall. They lit up one by one. His eyes widened. He recognized them. Ethan followed. "What is this place?" he asked. Kale looked back. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the question. He pointed. To the walls, then to the stars above. A gesture. Old, very old, not ours. Suddenly, the chamber shook. A low hum started under their feet. Ethan grabbed the wall to steady himself. Lights above flickered on. A map appeared in mid-air, a 3D projection of the star system. Dozens of planets. Space routes. Symbols. Then, something darker. Red dots moving across the screen. Ships. Warships. Ethan recognized the shape. His own fleet, but behind them, another cluster of red dots. Not human. Not Draxer, something else. Ethan and Kale looked at each other. They were not alone in this war. Kale stepped closer to the controls. He placed his palm on a circular pad. The machine scanned him. Beeped once. A symbol flashed. Access granted. A side panel opened. Inside was a communication device. Kale looked at Ethan. Then slowly, he held it out. A choice. Call the human fleet, or send a warning to both sides. Ethan stared at the device. This war had started long before he was born. Humans and Draxer fighting for territory, for revenge, for fear. But now he had seen something different. He had seen honor in an enemy, and danger in a greater shadow. He looked at Kale. The alien gave a slight nod. Ethan reached forward and pressed the button. A signal shot into space. A new message, not one of war, but of survival. Together. Far above the planet, the fleets moved closer. The human ships armed their cannons. The Draxer ships charged their plasma cores. They didn't know, not yet, that two soldiers, once enemies, had chosen a new path. The first voice they heard in hours was human. But it didn't sound like rescue. It sounded like a trap. The signal buzzed softly inside the ancient device. Static at first, then words. A man's voice. This is Recon Unit 9, receiving unknown ping. Source planet Varek 6, possible survivors. Stand by for contact. Ethan froze. His eyes locked on the console. Human signal. His people. Finally, but something felt wrong. The voice was cold. Robotic. Too calm. There was no emotion, no urgency, no "Are you okay?" or "We're coming to get you." Just procedure. Like they weren't saving someone. Like they were hunting something. Kale stepped beside him, looking at the holographic map. Multiple red dots had now moved toward the planet, not just one ship. A small fleet, recon units. Armed. Fast. Quiet. Kale pointed at the human signal and made a fist. A gesture Ethan now understood. Danger. The air in the room grew tense. Ethan looked at the transmission again. Should he reply? Should he wait? He remembered his last encounter with a drone, how it had tried to kill them both. No warnings. No questions. And now they were underground, surrounded by tech neither side understood. If the humans saw Kale, they wouldn't listen. They'd shoot, just like they always did. A sudden click echoed. Behind them. Ethan spun around. Kale had opened another chamber, hidden behind the wall. Inside was something unexpected. A body. No, a suit. Tall, alien, metallic, with glowing blue lines. Ancient design, humanoid, preserved like a relic. Kale stepped forward slowly, eyes wide. He dropped to one knee. A sign of respect. Ethan moved closer. The suit wasn't Draxer. It wasn't human either. It was something older. Stronger. Behind the suit was a dusty panel. With writing. Ethan brushed it with his glove. One name was carved into the metal, in English. Sarah Gr. Ethan's heart stopped. His sister, she had disappeared years ago. Her ship was lost in space. No signal, no wreckage. Everyone assumed she died. But here on this alien planet was her name written inside a forgotten ruin. Was she alive? Was she connected to this place? Why hadn't anyone found this before? He looked at Cale, stunned. Cale gave a slow nod, not of understanding, but of shared pain. Ethan touched the panel again. Dust crumbled. Beneath the name, a small screen lit up. A message. To whoever finds this, I tried to stop the war. They didn't listen, but maybe you will. Ethan's legs gave out. He sat down hard, staring at the words. His sister hadn't died in battle. She'd come here for peace, just like he had now. Above ground, the recon ships entered the atmosphere. Fast, silent, armed. Their scanners searched for signs of life. They had orders. Secure the planet. Eliminate threats. No questions. Back underground, Ethan made a decision. He turned to Cale. We have to go, now. Cale didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. They grabbed what they could: food capsules, a light weapon, and the recording from Sarah. Cale accessed a hidden exit, a narrow tunnel that led upward to the rocky surface. Dust filled their lungs. Wind howled above. They climbed fast. As they reached the top, Ethan saw the sun breaking through clouds, but it wasn't peaceful. In the sky above, dark shapes moved. Ships. Human dropships. Cale growled low. Ethan raised a hand. No, we don't fight. They ran toward a rocky ridge, hoping to stay hidden, but it was too late. A drone zipped overhead. It saw them. Scanned them. Target acquired. Ethan's radio crackled to life. Unidentified survivors detected. One human, one Draxer. Classify as hostile. Orders: capture or terminate. Ethan's eyes widened. They weren't here to rescue him. They were here to erase him. Cale pulled out his weapon. Ethan stepped in front of him. Don't, not yet. He looked up at the drone. Then at the recorder in his hand. His sister had tried to send a message. He would finish it, even if it meant becoming a target, even if it meant running forever, because someone had to break the cycle. Ethan Gray opened his eyes slowly. The glass of his helmet was cracked. A red warning flashed in the corner of his vision. Oxygen level, 17%. He tried to move, but pain shot through his chest. He groaned and looked around. His spaceship, the Orion 7, was gone. Only black smoke and broken metal pieces floated around him. He had crashed, but where? He was lying in the dust of an alien planet. The sky was purple, with 2 moons slowly moving above. His suit was damaged. His oxygen was leaking. And worst of all, he was alone. His radio was dead. No signal, no backup, no sound. Only his own breathing, slow, heavy, and counting down to the last breath. Ethan was a soldier of Earth Space Command. This mission was supposed to be a surprise attack on the alien enemies, the Draxer. But something went wrong. A laser hit their ship from behind. The crew screamed, then nothing. Now Ethan was the only one alive. He looked at his wrist panel again. Oxygen 15%. He had maybe 10 to 12 minutes left. He had to move. He stood up, his legs shaking. The alien ground was dry and rough. Purple rocks, strange blue grass, and tall, thin trees that looked like glass. In the distance he saw a hill with strange glowing marks. Maybe someone's there, he thought. Maybe another human, maybe a crashed pod. Maybe hope. He started walking. Every step hurt. His body was bruised. His head ached. He didn't know how far he walked, but the oxygen level kept falling. 14%, 12%, 10%. Finally, he reached the hill. There was a small opening, a cave. Inside, the air was cooler. It was dark, but his helmet light worked. Then he saw it, a body. Not human. It was big, taller than him, strong arms, dark gray skin, a strange silver armor. Its face had sharp bones and small glowing eyes. It was a Draxer, the enemy. Ethan froze. War had taken everything from him, friends, comrades, even his brother. The Draxer were monsters, killers, murderers. Every human soldier was told, if you see one, shoot first. But this one was not moving. Its body had burns. There was blood, dark green and sticky. It looked hurt, maybe dying. Its breathing was slow, weak, just like Ethan's. He looked again at his oxygen level. Oxygen, 8%. His hand moved to his sidearm. He pointed it at the alien. His finger touched the trigger, but he didn't pull it. He looked at the wounds. The creature was bleeding heavily. A part of its armor was broken. It was alive, but barely. Ethan remembered something. A memory. His brother, back at training, once said, "True courage isn't killing your enemy. It's knowing when not." 2. He dropped his weapon. Instead, he opened his medkit. It was all he had left. He moved closer. The alien didn't move. Still unconscious. Ethan used a healing patch, sealing one of the wounds. He didn't know if it would work on alien skin, but it was worth a try. He removed a small oxygen booster from the pack. He had one left. He looked at the alien, then at himself. Then he did something crazy. He shared the oxygen. He connected the booster to the alien's mask. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien gasped. Its eyes opened. Glowing blue, confused. It looked around, saw Ethan, then tried to sit up. Ethan raised his hands. "Easy, I'm not here to fight." Of course, the alien didn't understand. It spoke in a deep, strange voice, a language Ethan didn't know. The alien growled and moved its hand toward its belt. Ethan stepped back, but instead of a weapon, the alien pressed a button on its wrist. A red light blinked. A soft humming sound began. Ethan's helmet showed. New signal. A transmission, a bomb, or a call for help. He stared at the alien. Was he saving a killer? Or saving something more? His oxygen dropped again. Oxygen, 1%. His chest got tight. His vision blurred. He fell to his knees. He looked up at the alien, the one who was supposed to be his enemy. And then everything went black. Asterisk, he should have been dead, but instead, he woke up to the sound of breathing. Not his own. Ethan's eyes opened slowly. Everything was blurry. His chest burned. His helmet was gone. The air strangely was breathable. He sat up with effort. His suit had been patched with some kind of alien sealant. His oxygen booster was gone. So was his gun. Then he saw him, the alien. The Draxer warrior was sitting nearby, arms crossed, watching Ethan like a lion watching an injured animal. Silent, calm, waiting. Ethan didn't speak. Neither did the alien. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, the alien stood up and walked forward. Ethan flinched slightly, but instead of attacking, the alien dropped something next to him. A small metal capsule. It opened with a hiss. Inside was a strange blue gel. The alien pointed at it, then tapped his own chest, then pointed at Ethan. Ethan understood. "Eat it. It will help." He hesitated. Was it poison? A trap? But his body was too weak to fight or run, so he took a small taste. It was bitter, then warm, then energy. His mind felt clearer. His heartbeat steadied. His pain eased. He looked up at the alien. "Thanks," he said softly. Of course, the alien didn't understand, but the Draxer gave a small nod. Outside, wind began to howl. A dust storm was approaching. Orange sand filled the sky. The cave began to shake. Rocks fell. The alien stood quickly and pointed deeper into the cave. A warning. They had to go inside or be buried alive. Ethan followed. They moved deeper into the tunnels, their footsteps echoing. The cave walls had strange markings, glowing lines like circuits, ancient, not human. Not Draxer either. As they walked, the alien pulled out a device, a scanner. It beeped softly. Ethan watched with curiosity. The Draxer looked for something. Or someone. Then they came into a large chamber. Ethan gasped. In the center was an old escape pod, human-made. Rusted, burned, very old, and beside it, a human ID tag. He picked it up. LT, Sarah Gray, USS Polaris. His sister. No. It couldn't be. She disappeared 5 years ago. Everyone said she was dead. But here was her tag, on an alien planet. Hidden in a Draxer cave, Ethan felt a chill. He turned to the alien. You know her? Was she here? The alien didn't respond. But his expression changed. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Before Ethan could ask more, the alien's wrist device began to flash red. A signal, something, or someone, was coming. The alien made a sharp sound, like a command. He pointed at Ethan, then made a gesture. Hide. They both moved into a crack in the cave wall. Just in time, a light filled the chamber. A drone floated in, black, armored, scanning everything. It was Zorkassertek. The alien whispered something. In his own tongue. His voice was low, tense. Ethan realized. The drone wasn't friendly to either of them. They were both targets now. The drone paused above the human pod. A red light blinked. It scanned the tag, then aimed a small cannon at it. No! Ethan shouted without thinking and stepped forward. The drone turned. Locked on. Red light blinked. Target. Ethan. It fired. But before the blast could hit, something slammed into Ethan from the side, hard. The alien. He had tackled him. The blast missed, hitting the wall. Rocks fell. Sparks flew. The alien roared and pulled out a small plasma blade. With a fast, brutal move, he leapt at the drone and slashed. Boom. The drone exploded in mid-air, sending fire and smoke across the cave. Silence returned. Smoke hung heavy in the air. Ethan sat up, coughing. The alien limped toward him. His arm burned. He had saved Ethan's life. Again. The two stared at each other in the flickering light. For the first time, Ethan truly looked at him. Not as an enemy, not as a monster, but as someone who had chosen not to kill, who had risked everything to protect him. Ethan stood. He reached out a hand. The alien looked at it, slowly. He reached out his own. They shook hands, two soldiers from different worlds, once enemies. Now something else, but far above in the dark sky. A fleet was moving. The war was not over, not yet.